My name is Aaron Merrill, and I'm going to be talking today during this presentation number 1 about scenario number 3, to bundle or not to bundle, from the ethics book in chapter 5. And the situation with this scenario is a public company is forced to write down some intangible assets that were related in an asset-based acquisition. And after the decision was made to write these assets down, these intangible assets, the CFO approaches the controller and basically says, this is an opportunity for us to possibly write down some other questionable assets as one big extraordinary item. And the CFO basically instructs the controller this is what he wants the controller to do, is to write down these questionable assets as an extraordinary item. And so the controller has definitely some questions about this transaction. Some of the things that he needs to consider before making a decision on what to do in this case might be who will be affected by this decision, what's the most ethical option, what's the best decision for the company, what's the best decision for the shareholders, how can the financial controller complete this? How can the financial controller complete this task and also keep the CFO happy, among many other questions. Some of the options that the controller has include just following basically exactly what the CFO told him to do, which would be to write down these questionable assets as an extraordinary item. Another option would be to just ignore the CFO altogether, and if the CFO questions the controller, he can just say that he thought it was a test of his ethical standards. Another option is to basically create two sets of financial statements, one with writing down these questionable assets and one without, and then presenting the information to the auditor or the audit committee and letting them decide. Another possible option would be to follow the CFO's suggestion and do some creative accounting to make it difficult to discover these transactions by burying them deep in the financial statements and making it hard to understand. And another possible option, the option that I think would be the best, is to communicate clearly with the CFO and proceed with the transaction as it should be recorded, and only record the intangible assets that were related to the asset-based acquisition. The reason I think this is the best solution is because it's the most ethical, first of all, and it also benefits the greatest number of people involved. If the controller were to account for these other questionable assets, it may temporarily affect profitability for the company for the positive, but if this transaction were to be discovered, it definitely could lead to the detriment of the company, and as I read, it actually did lead to the detriment of the company. And in conclusion, many times some of these ethical questions are not easy to come up with an answer for, but sometimes the most ethical answers to these difficult questions are not the most popular. But before making a decision, I think all options should be considered, and after examining all the options, make the decision that benefits the greatest amount of people. And by making the right decision, it might not be the most popular, but it can help avoid some of the negative consequences involved.